Hello and welcome to the FB Premier League show. We have a little confession to make. We did record this episode yesterday, and it was the weirdest episode of all time. But unfortunately, Matt's audio was broken, so we're going to basically just recall the most important bits and perhaps, do a little bit of a news segment, news update as well. It'll be a short episode, we think. We hope.
You think? No guarantees.
But yeah, anyway, Matt, do you want to start us off then? Just go through the games in order.
So
what we
we've got
predicted.
got the predictions done already.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little bit baffling reading them back now. Got regrets already.
Hopefully, mostly yours.
They are. Not gonna lie. The first one anyway. Forest Arsenal. I went for a 2-2 draw.
Okay.
Bit mad.
Yeah.
You went for 0 Arsenal. Bit more sensible.
A little bit.
It's kind of weird to do it this way because, I'm trying to understand what I was thinking, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I think that's what we should be doing here. Is just you try and explain your. Whoever has the crazy prediction has to now explain their prediction.
Yeah, justify it. Well, yeah, yours you don't really need any justification for it, do you? It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
1-0 Arsenal. Yeah, but I don't know. 2-2. I mean, I think my thinking is probably that Forest have been scoring quite a few goals recently. They're quite a chaotic team. They always look competitive in games on the basis that they do score, but they're not really defending very well. Arsenal are on quite a bad run. We definitely talked about that. They had that 5-0 win against Palace, which was obviously a great result and maybe will start getting them back into a good run again. But before that, they were having a really shocking run. Can't remember what it was. It was like they'd only won one in their last 6 or 7 games, something like that, before the Palace game, maybe.
Yeah, it was something like that. They weren't doing too well.
So, yeah, I guess if you see the Palace game as an anomaly, maybe you could see Forest getting something here based on their recent form as well. The thing that's kind of weird about the 2-2 is that Arsenal do tend to be quite defensively solid. So Forest are going to have a very good game if they're going to score 2 goals against Arsenal.
Yeah, you don't think so. Although Forest do seem to just be able to turn it on sometimes.
That's the thing with Chris Wood in good form. They kind of feel like they're confident attacking at the moment, and they're at home. So I still back them for a goal. To be fair, I probably wouldn't go 2-2 if I was to re-predict, but I still back them to score. Maybe 2-1 Arsenal if I was to do it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the next fixture that we?
Fulham Everton.
Sorry. Fulham Everton.
What's the next? Well, the next game is Fulham Everton.
Yeah.
You want the next mad prediction?
What were the predictions for this one? I believe mine was 2-0, right?
You went 2-0 Fulham.
Yeah.
I went 1-1.
Okay.
Both pretty sensible.
Yeah. I mean, I just think Everton again just look a bit void of inspiration at the moment. They need to pick things up again.
They do.
And I don't know if that happens away at Fulham, of all places. Not that it's obviously not the hardest place to go in the league, but just a team that look a little bit more comfortable in their position this year. I think last year we all sort of saw them as overperforming, which is kind of fair enough because they just got promoted to the league and then had a top half finish. But even though that was the case, I kind of feel like they're even better this year, but they're just not overperforming as much. They look like a better side. They're more settled. They've got more depth. Got more threats, more quality. But
yeah, I mean they lost Mitrovic as well. If you put Mitrovic in this team, the way they're playing at the moment, you'd have them presumably a bit higher in the league than they already are. So, they're very unpredictable though. At the same time, they do,
like 2-0 at home loss to Burnley.
Yeah, they've not kind of got themselves in a real solid run. They kind of tend to have a good result and then a worse result, and it's all a little bit flimsy with Fulham. Everton, they do need a result, and they'll always be kind of threatening just because of the mentality that Dyche teams have. With Everton, it's about whether they can put it in the net, really. You obviously back the Fulham clean sheet. I think Everton will pose a threat, but it's whether they have the actual quality to score. Kind of the same with Fulham, really. I expect Fulham to probably be the better of the two teams on balance, but they both can struggle in front of goal just out of a lack of quality, really. So I think it'll be pretty cagey and maybe two scrappy goals for the 1-1. I could see it going either way. They're quite hard one to predict, really.
I mean, there could always be another 5-0 home win for Fulham. You never know.
Oof, they could, but I don't know. I think Sean Dyche might explode if that happens.
I think it melts. He's such a pressure cooker. He's exploding all the time.
Right? He's too hard to melt.
When it gets too much, it just melts the actual casing so that he can no longer explode.
No, he's too hard to melt, man. Sean Dyche is not a melter.
Fair enough.
Whatever that means. I don't really know what the hell that means. But next one's an interesting game, Luton-Brighton. I'd say yours is probably the more mad prediction here. Do you remember what you went?
I believe 3-2 Luton?
3-2 Luton, yeah. I went 2-1 Brighton, which is probably pretty standard.
No, I'd say that's more crazy, man.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah, home advantage and all that.
Yeah, Luton have been good recently, but I mean, Brighton are just, obviously the more solid team of the two. Yeah, Luton do have the home thing, and they've got form.
Do you think Brighton have been more solid defensively than Luton? I don't know.
Not more solid defensively, but just in general, in terms of the way they control games, the results they get in games, they're clearly a more sort of solid, safe bet in this game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is close. You've got Luton on 38 goals conceded and Brighton on 33, so they're not a mile apart. Anyway, yeah. One more? I suppose I'll justify my 3-2. I think Brighton are going to be a bit toothless. I think they can be very on and off. We've spoken about a lot. They're kind of like the sort of less developed Chelsea, or more developed, depending on how you look at it. In that they just hold all this possession, they have a great way of playing. They have some great talent, but they just can't seem to be clinical enough to actually win games consistently. And I think away from home at Luton, where they've got all that energy, all that physicality, the kind of trajectory they've been on at home with the kind of results they've been getting and the teams they've been sort of battling against, I think they could win this one. It'll be tough, but it's one of the ones where I think it's the right combination of factors to sort of enable Luton to pull off a bit of a scalp, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I could see it. Luton have got that kind of energy about them at the minute where you could kind of see them getting a result against anyone. Yeah. Just because they're so dangerous from set pieces, and they use the crowd and stuff to kind of give them a bit of fuel, and they always have spells in games, and they do just cause threats with their physicality and stuff. But I think on balance, just the fact that Brighton have just got more quality, and they will probably create more in terms of, I mean, they'll get in the right areas more. Whether they'll actually create more clear-cut chances, like you said, has been a bit of a problem for Brighton. So it remains to be seen. But yeah, I don't know. With Luton, I feel like they'd have to get lucky to get the result.
Yeah.
Because the games they win, they are set-piece situations, and they have to be clinical in their counter-attacks and stuff. And the games they win, it comes from scoring from one or two half chances. So I think they'd have to get lucky, whereas I feel Brighton are kind of the more solid pick to control the game and win it in a kind of secure way.
More traditional, point of view. You have to. I mean, every one of these is kind of like every time you predict a game, you kind of are faced with almost the same situation. You've got a sort of more dominant team that likes to probably hold possession a bit more, and you've usually got a weaker side that perhaps likes to play on the counter a bit more. You've kind of got the dominant side where you focus on anytime they slip up, being like, oh, they could slip up again. And then you've got the weak side, you focus on the wins they've got, and you're like, oh, they could win again. So you kind of always just have to find a balance with these things.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
what's going to happen today, based on your instinct, I guess. Unless you've got very specific things that you can look into. Like for example, with that City 6-1 against Bournemouth, there were some sort of stats that highlighted that Bournemouth could have been vulnerable down their right hand side prior to the match, and yeah, they absolutely got torn apart by Doku down their right hand side. So sometimes you can kind of eke out these little bits of information, but I haven't done that kind of preparation, so I'm just
No, I
going with instinct.
mean, like you say, generally it is so tight that, and it's the Premier League. Like every week, there's a few anomalous results, and you think nobody saw that coming. It happens all the time. Nobody sees exactly which result it's going to come in, but there will always be some kind of random results where the underdog wins the game. So you just got to pick your moments. You've picked your moment, gone Luton. This next game, I've definitely got to justify this one. I don't know where it came from. Palace, Sheffield United. I still back the result I went for. You went for a 2-1 Palace.
Yeah.
I went for a Palace win as well, which I'd still back, but I went 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, I think you played a numbers game here. You just thought if either side's going to win this big, and if there's a lot of goals, it's probably going to be Palace. And you needed to, I think, you need to find ways to sort of gain points back on me. And I was playing quite conservatively yesterday in terms of my predictions. So I think maybe you just got dragged into a numbers game where you just thought I've got to make the points back.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember that coming into my thinking. I think it was more that I think I was more just stumped. I seem to remember taking an absolute age figuring out what I thought about this one. Because it's like Sheffield United look much more threatened at the moment, so I figured they'd probably score. Palace look very flimsy, definitely capable of conceding a goal or two. I don't know where the 4 goals for Palace came from. It might have been that they're at home and they need a bit of a kick up the arse because their form's been bad.
Maybe.
It's hard to really find a reasoning for backing Palace for 4 goals. But I think it probably came from thinking that Palace were going to win the game, that Sheffield United were going to score and maybe score more than 1 goal. And then if I still back Palace, I've got to go for like a 3-2 or a 4-2. I don't know why I added the extra goal in there, but
Answer me this question, Matt. How many times have Crystal Palace scored more than 2 goals this season? Anyway, how many times have Sheffield United scored 2 goals away from home this season?
probably 0 on each front, to be fair. Let's have a look. Palace have never scored 4 goals in a game this season.
Have they ever scored more than 2?
Huh?
Have they scored more than 2 in any game?
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay.
Not in a while. They're on a terrible run of form, but
so not crazy to think they could score some goals. And then
no, so they're capable. I mean, if you look at the players they've got, they are capable of creating and scoring goals.
So your conclusion in the end is that you are just a nutcase.
Pretty much. There's no reason to back Palace for 4 goals. That is obviously a bit mad. Sheffield United might have been their last game against West Ham was mental.
Yeah.
They should have beat West Ham. They scored 2 goals. It was 2. That probably came into things. I feel like I don't mind the 2 goals for Sheffield United. It's the 4-2. It's the 4 goals for Palace, which is a bit baffling. But
what would you change it to if you were to do it now again?
I would still go Palace. I'd probably go 3-2 or 2-1, I think.
2. Ooh. Oh
2-1 is what you went with, obviously. So.
Oh, that was a sneeze. Anyway, right, okay. Crystal Palace, Sheffield United. Probably going to be a pretty boring game, but
no, it's not. 6-goal thriller.
What's the next game on the fixture list?
Villa Newcastle.
Oh yeah.
Tonight's the night.
And what did we both predict?
I went 3-0, repeat of last year. You went 3-1.
All right. I think no need for justification there. We'll move on. Instead of talking about Villa versus Newcastle, because I think everyone can see that Villa are in a sort of a good spot compared to Newcastle in a bit of a bad spot. Everyone knows how good we've
pretty
been
much.
at home versus how bad Newcastle have been away.
Their away form I saw today before after I'd made my prediction. Even they have 5 points away this season out of a possible 30. Sheffield United are the only team with a worse away record, which surprised me because I knew they'd been bad away, but I didn't realise it was that bad.
Yeah, Sheffield United did get a draw at Villa Park though, so
Shit.
there you go.
Don't tell me that. Shit.
Um,
Worried.
but yeah, so I mean, it's pretty likely, all things considered, that we will get a result.
Don't say that, man. Giving me the creeps.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Jinxing
it could come back to bite us, and it also could make it just look good, you know.
it. Got to take those risks in life sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you know you got to say it because we sometimes we say don't speak things into existence, but
Yeah,
can't
sometimes you got it.
things as well, you know. So yeah, all in all, looking like a decent chance for us to get some points. What we can talk about as well for Villa, just as a quick sort of tangent in this segment, Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that we've agreed a deal for Morgan Rogers. Matt, I understand you have some close personal ties to the Rogers camp.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? I mean, I know what it means.
I just wanted to see if
Where
you
the
go
hell
along
did
with
that come
it.
from?
Yeah.
Ignoring that, yes, it looks like we're about to sign Morgan Rogers.
Anything to say?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
He looks good. It's a bit of a wild card, which I like, to be fair. It kind of came out of nowhere. And initially, when you look at his numbers and stuff, you think, what are we doing? This is a player who doesn't even start all the time for Middlesbrough, isn't super impressive in terms of his goal involvement and sort of pure statistical point of view.
Yeah.
You're thinking, what are we doing? But the more you kind of watch him play, you can see how he definitely will fit in the system in terms of his qualities. He's something that, I mean, I feel like Zaniolo was kind of a similar player in terms of good with his feet, like good shot on him, but physical as well. I feel like Emery's definitely tried to go after a physical kind of player. At the same time, the similarities between Rodgers and Buendia when you watch them play. So he's definitely going to fit in quite well in the system we play in a number of different positions. He's young, obviously. Man City academy player. He broke the record for a 16-year-old when Man City signed them years ago. So
did they sign him from West Brom?
Yeah, which I think partly might come into it because there's a lot of West Brom people at Villa now. Like our academy is made up of a lot of West Brom ex-West Brom academy staff. Because we signed a Robenham, we signed a couple of players from West Brom academy, and I think that's because our academy staff used to be at West Brom.
Yeah, we've signed a lot more than a couple. I think even just in the last few years, there's been that.
Yeah, Finn Azaz came from West Brom.
Gimo,
Rico Richards recently. Yeah.
Rico Richards.
Yeah.
Obviously a Robenham. Wouldn't be surprised if like Tommy O'Reilly or something came from them.
Maybe. Yeah. So there's
probably came from there.
So there's a lot of links. So that might have come into play. But yeah, there's loads of promising signs. He's not too expensive. Definitely got a lot of potential, and I like that it's a bit of a kind of wild card one that doesn't immediately scream at you as a great signing, because sometimes they're the better signings, because the ones that are sort of on paper brilliant, sometimes the expectation is really high and they can be a bit disappointing. But I feel like this is a player that Emery can work with closely, mould into the system in the way that he wants and develop him really well. And the main thing that sold it for me was the fact that it was reported everywhere that this is Emery's number one priority for the window. And I think if Emery identifies some random championship player who nobody is not really on anyone's radar as his number one transfer target for the window, you just got to go with it. Like, the guy knows what he's doing, has clearly got a plan for the player. You just got to go with it. So yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think I had similar reservations about Morgan Rogers when we first saw the rumours. Again, like seeing the highlights and things, I saw, well, yeah, he's clearly got some good technical ability. There is some talent there. But for me, when I watched him, I kind of thought he looked like he gets a bit lazy, just walks around the pitch. And I wasn't sure, at that level, should he be getting more involvements and things. But he does kind of play a bit more of a progressive playmaker type role than necessarily someone who's receiving those progressive passes in very kind of high output areas, if you know what I mean, and making that final ball or making the shot. So, with regards to his numbers, I kind of understand why then.
Yeah, a lot of those highlights, they start with him really deep on the pitch.
Yeah.
Because you think an attacking player and you go to the highlights video expecting like highlights in attacking areas, but actually a lot of them start kind of behind the halfway line. He's picking up the ball, turning, and like you say, progressing the ball, which is something that Buendia used to do a lot for us as well. And Buendia's numbers haven't been great for us, but I feel like his performances have always kind of better reflected or like looked better than his numbers and his stats look on paper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you mean with the numbers thing, and actually when you watch those highlights, you can see why his numbers aren't incredibly impressive, because actually he's not an out and out player.
Just a different type of forward sort of thing. And the thing is as well, what some of the things I've highlighted to you is about really tidy first touch finishes and things, and close range finishes in the box. That I think is something that kind of, if you could get that out of him in the Premier League, recreate those scenarios against low blocks, he could potentially unlock opportunities for us in those games where sometimes we do look a bit stuck and like we're unable to penetrate. And if he is kind of that more Buendia-ish sort of type, he is going to be very direct. He's going to look to take on his man immediately and create some kind of opportunity, whether that's to progress the ball or to put a ball in the box, to get a player in behind, whatever it is. Those are the things he's constantly looking to do, which I think Ramsey, for example, is a bit more conservative than that in the way he plays generally. And then you've got players, like Diaby and Bailey, who are a little bit better utilised further forward, either trying to break the line or get on the end of a chance or putting a cross in. So it does provide a nice kind of number 10 sort of playmaker to buffer that area between the midfielders and the attackers.
Yeah, definitely. That's the encouraging thing about it, really, is that we've been talking about for ages, while we've been on this run where we've looked a little bit stunted against low block teams, we've always been talking about how we need to figure out a way to break them down, to score goals in those situations. And it seems like we've gone out and identified a player who does exactly that. And it's quite rare in football where, you like as a fan, you see things that it seems obvious to you that there's a problem, and it's like, okay, we need to sign a player to do that. And obviously, what do we know as fans? Like the scouting teams and the staff, they know more. But quite often you think, okay, we've got this problem, we need to sign a player, and then you sign a player and it just seems like the complete wrong player, or you go sign a player in another position and you're like, what are we doing there? But Villa have had a clearly identifiable problem for a little while now, and it seems like we've signed a really good option to just fill that role perfectly and give us something that we haven't got. Because like you say, it's his creative passing really that offers him, that makes him offer something quite different to what we've already got. Because Ramsey's like a good passer, but he's not super creative with it. He's more kind of take on his man to make the obvious pass. Diaby and Bailey, kind of the same. They create the space and create opportunities by taking players on and then cutting back or whatever. Whereas Rodgers seems like the type of player who he can obviously take on his man. He's very good at taking on his man, but also he's kind of seeing and attempting passes that other players aren't necessarily seeing, and that can unlock those kind of defensive situations where getting to the byline is not a problem really. But he can kind of sit in the hole in front of the defence and pick passes out. So yeah, it looks like a great option. And one of those things about his numbers as well, I remember it might have been a Statman Dave video where he talked about his underlying numbers rather than his actual output, and I think he was top percentile in the championship for expected assists and for through balls played and stuff like that. So in terms of underlying stats rather than actual output as well, there's clear Clearly, an element to his game that he's a very, very good creative passer.
Absolutely. And right, to avoid us getting too distracted on this tangent, we'll head on to the next game now.
Yeah, but it's exciting, isn't it? We haven't made a bloody signing yet. This window. I mean, we still haven't signed Rodgers. This could all sound very stupid if something falls through here.
Well, it's got the Fabrizio Romano. Here we go. So
But then the Brentford looked like they'd signed what's his name, Nura.
Hakon Valdemarson or something like that.
No, from Bruges, the winger, Nusa, yeah.
Norwegian winger.
It looked like they signed him and everything had all gone through, fee agreed, blah blah blah. But it seems like he's failed the medical.
Because he's bloody good.
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, yeah, but also it seems like he's got an underlying knee issue and a back issue that could. I mean, it means that Brentford aren't going to sign him. It's that serious. So it seems like he might not even have a career at this point, or much of a career.
I doubt that. I think he will have a career, but these things can make, because the thing is with the medical, it's not. I don't think it's what a lot of people think it is. It's not like a test to see if you can play football or not. It's just a test for the buying club to assess the player and decide whether the money they're going to pay for him is worth risking. So it's not necessarily that, he's failed the medical, therefore he can't play football, right? It's more he's failed the medical, as in Brentford saw too much risk in the signing.
Yeah, I mean, true, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I highly doubt that he's not going to have a career considering he's 18.
No, I don't mean as in he's going to stop playing football, but I think if there's something serious enough that Brentford aren't going to go through with the deal, then certainly suggests there's something that is going to potentially jeopardise his kind of ability at the top level. But anyway, that's what happened with Rodgers.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Come on, next fixture. It was 5 minutes ago.
Right, for fuck's sake. City Burnley.
Yes, right.
This one's pretty straightforward, to be fair. We both went big wins for City. I went 4-0. You went 5-1.
Yeah.
Both pretty straightforward. I suppose the 5-1 is the little bit more out there prediction. You got Burnley down for a goal, which most people probably wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, they scored one against Arsenal. Why not?
Yeah, they've looked better in recent weeks for sure. And City, although they're Man City, and we talked yesterday about how everyone's saying they're in a slump, but actually they're still on really, really good form, and they just basically drew a couple of games, and that was their slump.
Yeah.
But they've not looked excellent at the back, really. They've if a team plays well, they can definitely exploit City's defence. So
yeah, I just don't think Burnley will be planning to sit deep and play counter-attacking football. Of course, they're going to have to some extent because it's City, but I don't think they're going to sort of really settle for that right from the off, and that might just give them a chance to sort of catch City by surprise, or just get players in positions that Pep's not expecting and nick a goal at some point.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's kind of the only way you've got a chance, really, is if you get at them early on, unless you're Aston Villa and you just dominate them from the start, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Going away to City, the only way you chance really is to go for it from minute one, get a goal, and then rattle them. But if you give it 10 minutes, City will be just settled in, passing the ball around, and then you've got like 90 minutes of pain. But if you can go at them and unsettle them in the first 10, then you've got a bit of a chance. But yeah, not too much to say about that one. It would be quite surprising not to see a City win with a few goals for sure. Spurs Brentford, both went the same result again. Both went for a draw.
Did we?
I went 2-2, you went 1-1. Yeah.
We are such bastards, man.
We're just Spurs haters, aren't we? Like, come on.
Fuck 'em. Who needs them? Don't care. Don't even need justification. Move it on.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Liverpool, Chelsea. Remember what you went?
I went for 3-2 Liverpool, didn't I?
You did. I went 3-1 Liverpool.
I think in hindsight, yeah,
Interesting
I
game.
might have gone for less goals for Chelsea, but I don't know. I
Yeah, I
feel
don't know
like Chelsea
what's your
they
thinking
always turn
behind the
up
two.
against big sides. So
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I think even though one team's top of the league and one team's 10th, the way Chelsea have been playing recently, and something about Chelsea does make me think that they'll give it a good go and it will be a tight game, even though I've gone
yeah,
3-1 Liverpool. I guess Chelsea's lack of quality is what's going to um, sort of decide whether they get a few goals or not. Because you'd imagine they'll play well enough to get one or two, but sometimes they play well enough to get 3 or 4 and don't score.
yeah. I mean, it's just going to be down to can they finish whatever chances they get, because I'm sure they will get some. They do in pretty much every game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's just, will Cole Palmer actually be able to finish his dinner for once? I say for
yeah. He's
once.
a little bit inconsistent with the finishing, isn't he? He always plays
Yeah,
well. He's always creative and dangerous, but he can be a little bit inconsistent with the finishing. At the same time, he
yeah.
can be an amazing finisher sometimes.
I know. Yeah, he's a young player. That's kind of normal, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's why.
even if you're not a young player, I think a player of 25 years of age in his position, playing and getting the kind of numbers he is and playing the way he is right now, wouldn't be kind of misjudged as inconsistent. They'd be like, I know he's just a good player. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if he was an incredibly consistent finisher on top of all his other qualities, he'd be like best in the world. We'd be talking about a world class, top of his game kind of player. So yeah, it's not necessarily inconsistent. It's just the nature of a player in his position sometimes that they're not constantly finishing off every chance they get.
yeah,
Both back Liverpool for a few goals without Salah.
yeah,
Uh,
they're going to have the agent of chaos up there. They're going to have
yeah,
Jota, who's just pretty consistent, pretty technically solid. Uh, just knows the game of football. With him up there, Nunez and at least one of Diaz or Gakpo running off him, you've always got a chance of creating something with those kind
yeah,
of
it's still
players
super
like that
dangerous,
kind of
isn't it?
quality.
Really.
Yeah, and then of
Uh,
course we'll still have the rest of the Liverpool squad there to be incredibly defensively solid. So we could either be looking at a narrow Liverpool win or like a high scoring Liverpool win, I think.
Could be, yeah, I could see that. Especially like Jota's just on such good form. It's just everything's going in the net at the moment for Jota. And Nunez is scoring goals as well.
Mm.
So next we've got West Ham Bournemouth.
Do you know what, I can't remember what I
Hmm,
predicted for this. I think, did I say 2-1 Bournemouth?
yeah, both went for a Bournemouth win, which is interesting. I might go for something different if I predicted that again.
I think you should
No,
change it. Yeah. Do you know what, you can with the one goal allowance. Remember, you could change it by
no,
one
not
goal.
going to. Not going to. But yeah, I might go for a draw if I was to do it again. I think it might be a
You
bit
should
harsh on West Ham.
just do it.
No, don't want it.
Yeah, but you just said you want to do it.
No, I said I would,
Well, you could.
but I don't want it. So maybe I wouldn't.
This is bullshit. This is bullshit. It's
Yeah.
lies.
Yeah, no, you went 2-1 Bournemouth. I went 3-2 Bournemouth. I think I probably like on balance back the result. It's a pretty hard one to predict. I mean, this does potentially have a 3-2 game written all over it. West Ham have had some 3-2 games, I think, this season, maybe more
Yeah.
than one.
I
So
think the only one of two that's been predicted correctly has been the
yeah,
West Ham Forest game and
Forest,
then
yeah,
the Brentford Forest game.
yeah. So yeah, West Ham have definitely got it in them to concede a bunch of goals because you have this preconception that they're defensively solid, but they just don't seem to be at the moment. At the same time, they're still quite a dangerous team going forward, aren't they? So yeah,
I don't
3-2
know.
Bournemouth's
Is
okay.
Bowen even in the squad still?
Oh no, that's the thing that's limiting West Ham's potential in the game is
Yeah,
the
Kadush and Agard are still out, aren't they? The African Cup of Nations.
uh, I can't remember. Senegal went out. Um,
Or
could you?
that means Spurs would get back a couple of players.
Yeah, Sarr is back for Spurs. Oh no, Kudish has gone in.
Yeah, Kadushi's gone there.
What a good goal the other day.
Gerd, I think, is Moroccan or Tunisian, so he's not going to be
He's
back.
still in. Yeah.
But anyway, generally, Bournemouth have looked the better side. Solanke's sort of doubts were luckily just doubts, and he is back playing football. He should be pretty sharp, I'd expect. So yeah, if they can even get one or two chances for him and generally play the way they've looked over the last few weeks, I do see them probably getting the better of West Ham. Sorry, West Ham.
Yeah, it does feel a bit harsh considering West Ham are like what, sixth in the league.
Yeah.
But it's just going off recent form really, and West Ham missing a few players.
West Ham
Yeah,
very rarely looks good, to be honest. This year they've just
it's a bit
kind
baffling
of
how they're in sixth. To be fair,
sorry.
it's a bit baffling how they're in sixth when you kind of think about their
Yeah.
performances and stuff.
Well,
It's kind of like how have they done that?
yeah, they're very smash and grab, and they have some talented individuals that really facilitate that kind of play style. Because even when you're someone who's expected to finish in the lower regions of the league, the smash and grab style is probably the best thing to help get you out. So then when you're a team of higher quality, if you can still kind of stick to that philosophy, relatively strictly, with the kind of players you've got, you can really make the most of those kind of chances where perhaps smaller teams might struggle to score them, and you'd be able to play that style with even more effectiveness. So yeah, on the one hand, it is kind of good. It does look like they are kind of playing well if you sort of look at it from a certain perspective. But then on the other hand, they just don't control games. Um, so it's really hard for them in any sense. Like I suppose they can manage games if they can keep a team in their own half, for example, or something like that. But that's just not the way they play. They don't sit high up the pitch. They don't press super high. They don't work incredibly hard. They just look to be really defensively solid, which, as you kind of said, hasn't necessarily happened for the most part. It would tend to works better. Sorry, against some of the bigger teams like Spurs and Arsenal.
Yeah, they've had some good results against big teams.
Yeah, where again those results were kind of seen as quite lucky, definite smash and
Yeah,
grabs.
I mean it suits them, doesn't it? It just suits
Yeah,
their way of playing to play bigger teams that are more comfortable in possession. And then these types of games against Bournemouth, they kind of look a little bit lost, especially when they're expected to actually keep the ball. They kind of have to attack in a different way, and they doesn't often seem to come together for them. Yeah, both gone for the Bournemouth win. I could see I could definitely see us both getting that one wrong. To be fair, that's quite a tough one to call. And then the last game is Wolves Man United. We've both gone Wolves win,
yeah,
which I think that's fair enough, really.
yeah. Wolves are playing really well. They've got a really interesting side. They're only missing Hwang really at the moment, that I'm aware of, who's like a definite starter. Um, yeah, they're set, ready to kind of not explode, but at least continue or pick up this form and at least finish somewhere pretty respectable in the league.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas
United are
United's
super inconsistent.
Trajectory, at least.
Yeah, the one thing that I saw today that Lisandro Martinez is back for Man United. I don't know whether that's a huge factor, but he's a fairly significant player for them.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a big factor. It depends exactly what kind of available he is. If it's available as like, oh, this is the first time it's feasible we could select him, or if this is all right, now he's like fully fit, ready to go. He's completely finished rehab, like been training for a few weeks. Now we're ready to slot him straight back in. That's two different kinds of he's available again, and
Yeah,
they probably come with two very different levels of performance.
yeah. I think he got some minutes in the cup, but I think that was his first minutes in a long, long time. So he's not going to be back at his very best immediately, but he'll probably give Man United some stability. But I think you've still got to back Wolves. The form they're in, the threat they've got on the attack, and just the general flimsiness of Man United. Like, yeah, got to back Wolves for the win, I think.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I don't know if it's definitely right, but I think Wolves tend to hold a very, very high line currently.
They do, yeah. It might even be the average position of their back line might be higher than ours. I saw a statistic.
I think it is. I think
Yeah.
I'm seeing something similar. So, I mean, if they are playing that way at the moment and they stay as defensively solid as they normally are, I think Manchester United away at any stadium is a risk. And Wolves have been particularly hard to get a result out of at home this year for most teams.
Definitely.
I can see them just honestly cutting through United's mistakes, sort of, if you know what I mean, and just finishing them off. I just don't see much of a chance for United in this game at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I went for the Wolves clean sheet, really. Obviously, Man United, with the players they've got, they're definitely capable of scoring, and they've kind of found a little bit of scoring form recently with Willen getting a few goals and stuff. But I kind of see, the way I see the game going is Wolves just being really dominant throughout, and United having one of those appearances where they kind of just lose their mentality early on. They get disheartened, and they haven't really got anything solid about them in terms of fight, except Bruno Fernandes. They just kind of seem a bit wet. If they concede a goal away from home, I just don't see them having anything really. I see Wolves just being completely comfortable, getting an early goal, and I don't see United having much of a chance either.
There's always the possibility when you predict United to lose that they just kind of have one of those like Goodison away fixtures where they just somehow hit everything into the top corner and trick people into thinking they're good again for another couple of weeks. And then Ten Hag, eventually just prolongs his suffering. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're sound in that prediction. So yeah, is that every fixture covered? Yeah,
that's it.
Talked about Morgan Rogers. So what else can we talk about? I mean, is there anything else? I
don't know if there's much more transfer news.
Palace been really signed someone, Daniel Munoz or something.
Oh yeah, I've definitely heard of this guy. I can't remember where from. Might have been a bloody Football Manager special or something. Let me have a look. They're also apparently, what's his name from Blackburn?
Adam Wharton.
Yeah, apparently they're close to signing Adam Wharton.
Palace are?
Yeah, 20 odd million. Oh yeah, they've agreed a deal, apparently.
Did you say 28 million?
20 odd.
Oh, 20 odd, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that's a bit much.
Yeah, maybe overpaying slightly, but he's definitely one of the best prospects in the Championship. He's English, so I don't know whether that perhaps adds to the money a little bit.
Yeah, but you look at like the prestige and the kind of development of Morgan Rogers, and he's only going for 10 with add-ons. It's a bit crazy to talk about a guy who, honestly, I've only heard of being on the scene this year for 20 plus.
Yeah, but I mean,
side,
maybe, yeah. I mean, he's like 19 years old, so maybe see that as a risk to spend 20 million on him. But I don't know. I mean, 19 years old, he's had 2 full seasons in the Championship now, so he played a fair bit for Blackburn last year, and this season he's been a regular starter. At 19, I think that's fairly good grounding for a player. Shows he's kind of got the physicality to compete. I don't know much about him as a player, to be honest, but I think any player who's kind of regularly playing at Championship level at 18, 19 has definitely got something about them. I'd have to look more into him to kind of properly evaluate it. But
yeah, have you seen his FB ref or anything?
Yeah, so his numbers are very solid, to be fair. He looks like a very all-round midfielder, defensively good in the tackle, good interceptions. His progressive passing is good. His shot creating actions and expected goals and assists are good. Nothing outstanding.
Yeah.
Just kind of every number is just very solid. And I think, again, for an 18, 19-year-old to be putting up like really solid passing numbers and stuff over the course of 2 seasons in the Championship is very accomplished for that age.
Yeah, especially as a DM as well.
Yeah, like in that area of the pitch in a physical league. So yeah, you'd have to look more into it to like fully evaluate that. But I think face value, it looks okay to me. He definitely looks a promising player, and again, like English maybe adds to it a little bit the price, but yeah, it looks okay to me.
Fair enough. Right, any other business? Any other news?
Batista apparently signing Fornals from West Ham. Fornals, he's not really had much of a role recently, has he, at West Ham? So that's not really a big one for them.
Yeah. Isn't
they're signing?
Have had an offer for Benrahma.
Yeah,
Right?
Benrahma.
Accepted or?
Not sure. I think it seemed like it was fairly far along, 16 million or something. Okay. I think we both considered Benrahma as an option to be leaving West Ham.
Yeah, I ended up, I think, going with Maxwell Cornet, which is funny because I said suggestion to go to Nottingham Forest, and they are actually in talks to sign him at the moment. So yes, my brain apparently works the same as Forest's recruitment department and West Ham's director.
Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the kind of philosophy I want to join up with. At least I can tap into it if needed.
Yeah, true.
So there you go.
I mean, that seems like a decent sale for them because he's like still obviously a good player, but he's just not really found his role. They're apparently signing Jota from the Saudi team, the one who was at Celtic.
Oh, yeah.
He looks really
good. Forester?
No, West Ham.
Oh, right, okay. I mean, yeah, that would be decent.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware. I haven't actually watched him play, but...
Yeah, I watched him a fair bit at Celtic, and he was really good, but it's hard to really judge from that league. But he's a good age and stuff, and he wouldn't be super expensive, so I think that's pretty solid.
I think with West Ham as well, you kind of just go, if anyone's able to produce in a poor league, the system we play, they'll probably be able to produce because
to be fair,
and they'll be on the counter. So it doesn't really matter if there's a lot of good defensively solid low blocks in this league because you probably won't have to play against them because we'll be it. So there you go. I think there's nothing more I can call on.
Apart from that, I'm not seeing much. There was a lot of talk about Newcastle losing maybe Trippier or Almiron or Callum Wilson, but that all seems to have gone quiet.
Yeah.
It would have to be a kind of insane offer for them to consider selling one of those players, especially considering how light they are on players at the moment.
I think we should probably do an update on this in sort of 2 days' time once the window's actually shut, because as of today that's probably rumours, but we could just do a whole episode where we go through everything that's actually ended up happening or nearly happening.
And you usually get a bit more action in the last 24 hours as well. So.
Absolutely. So hopefully Villa go for a midfielder, Mandela Keita. Yeah, but anyway, all right. We'll see you all next time because that is going to be the end of the episode. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that juicy,
all that jazz.
Yeah, Matt, you're going to make some shorts for these lovely people, aren't you?
Maybe.
Hopefully. Maybe this is why you're watching now. You just watched one of our shorts and clicked on the main episode. That's it, really. We'll see you in a few days.
Nice, solid thumbs up to end the episode.